Hello, beautiful soul. I'm so excited to have you here with me again. Today we have special guest, Eugenia Ogunava. Eugenia is a business strategist, personal transformation expert, and quantum messaging energetics coach with over 20 years of experience. She's a self-made millionaire and a best-selling author of 3 books. She has been featured in over 100 networks and publications. She specializes in helping spiritual coaches and healers create consistent 10K months and sustainably scale past 6 figures without forcing themselves to work harder by weaving masculine business strategy to feminine quantum energetics and customizing with their unique soul design and mission. She's not a typical business coach. She's clairvoyant and she uses her extraordinary abilities to support her clients in addition to solid business strategies. I love that. Hi, Eugenia. How are you today?
I am great, and thank you so much for having me here. It's always so fun to have somebody read the introduction. It's like, oh yeah, that's me. That's great.
I know. I feel the exact same way. I'm like, oh yeah, I did that. Oh yeah, I do that. Well, I'm excited to have you here. I'm excited for today's episode. First of all, I'm loving all the magic behind what you do. I'm like, yes, oh my God, I cannot wait to talk about this. I'm all about living out our unique soul design and mission. But before we get into all the juicy topics today, I'd love to, get to know a little bit more about you, how you got started, how you got to where you are today.
Yeah, I'm one of those people who does everything backwards. So instead of going to school and learning and graduating and then, becoming a business owner or something like that, I was born clairvoyant with capacity to see timelines, possibilities, people's energy fields, and so on. So by the time I was 2, I was already answering questions of this type. By the time I was 14, I already had paid clients. By the time I was 16, I had pretty much full practice, and the life conscious kind of went on from that. So then all the education and everything I did was more for me, and I've studied anything from psychology and theosophy and history and art and quantum physics and so on. So I have like a lot of things that sort of behind my belt as a possibility to offer my clients, but the main direction has always been what my natural gift was. And over the years, I realized that because a lot of my clients were entrepreneurs or business owners, they were saying like, oh, thank you, Eugenia, for this thing you said. This is like I added to my messaging and this created this incredible inflow of clients. Or thank you so much for how you explain this, and then I've adjusted this in my business, and oh my God, this is so much easier to do, and so on. So over time, I kind of realized like, oh, I'm actually doing the messaging, the energetics of the business strategy, and like all those things without necessarily knowing that I'm doing it, but because I'm reading their field and I'm reading the profit potential in their soul design. So that's how I ended up kind of graduating through this transformational mentoring into becoming a business strategist and quantum messaging coach, because that's my passion is to help women who have a gift to monetize it, to actually be able to get paid and paid well for doing their soul work. Because I believe that everybody who comes in here has that capacity because, hey, I did it. Like I came in with a gift and I was able to always make money doing what I do. And I'm good at what I do, but I didn't have that traditional kind of a fear of, oh, but how do I charge for it or whatever. I just kind of assumed that it's normal, and I'm neurodivergent. So I didn't have the sort of a typical, like neurotypical way of, well, that's how you should do it. I just kind of did my own thing. And then I realized other people don't do that. And I was like, oh, wow, but I can help them free themselves from all these rigid strategies that they think they're supposed to do, or go to school and spend, 4 years studying something only so you finally become something. And instead actually open up what they came in with, which I call soul expertise, and then utilize that to bring in wealth. Like I work with wealth energetics. That's kind of my thing in mentoring that I do. So that's how I got into what I got into. I sort of got into it backwards.
Oh, one, I love that you got into it. Two, I love that, you just really, you owned your gifts from the beginning. I think a lot of us, or, some people that might be listening right now, they might be like, yeah, I have this, but like, I don't know if I can make money from it, or, I don't trust myself. This is not what I learned. This is not what I was taught, so things like that. Like, what would you say to someone, like, how can you learn to trust more of like pursuing, your soul design, or pursuing what you're here to do when, we're taught the complete opposite?
Yeah, totally. And that's a very common thing, actually, is that, we come into a lifetime, every lifetime, with kind of two suitcases. One suitcase is all our gifts, all the amazing somethings, and everybody has that suitcase. Another suitcase is the karmic lessons. Those are the things we gotta work through, learn, and this is like Earth school here that we come in. So those two things both meant to be utilized. And in your soul design, which is sort of your soul contract, you can say, like how you're built, you have profit potential. This is a possibility for how you can attract wealth through those two suitcases. So a lot of times people think that to monetize their gift or whatever it is that they kind of think that they're good at, like maybe they're really good listener, maybe they know how to hold space for somebody to feel safe, maybe they're very good in a crisis, maybe they are amazing in like running energy through them and ability to heal, maybe they can hear animals and so on. Like we all have some gifts. Sorry, but I think a lot of times people think that they need to have something super special in order for this to be monetized, and that it has to be like this amazing good thing. When actually, a lot of times what I found is that your ability to be confident in what you're doing and deliver it to the world is a combination of those two suitcases. So it's not just your gifts that you're monetizing. It's essentially your gift and the karmic patterns and the issues you brought in. So putting those together translates kind of like, okay, what have I learned in this lifetime? What is my mission, as in where I'm going? What am I passionate about? What are my natural innate gifts? And the combination of all of that is you being you. It's not you learning something. It's you kind of uncovering more of what you already are. Confidence comes from being aligned with who we are, not from, like being good at something that you've learned. That's also great, of course, but those are add-ons to natural innate confidence that, when you see somebody really being their own authority and they're sovereign and they're present in who they are, they have self-acceptance and personal mastery, that's confidence. So that's part of what I teach. That's my transcension method, is the combination of that self-love and self-acceptance and sovereignty. So you're individuated and you have your own direction, and authority. So you take your power back from whatever you're given to and you stand in it. And the mastery, as in you actually living that way. The more you're living authentically to you, to your soul design, the more you're going to feel the confidence. But the initial step is, first of all, do you want it? If you want it, are you willing to risk a little and challenge yourself with like, okay, I'm going to be a little uncomfortable, but I'm going to grow into it. And if you are, the rest is just keep uncovering yourself.
I love it. You make it sound so simple.
Well, it's a process, and that's why we have coaches and mentors and all that to help us. But I always tell my clients that I'm not going to tell you who to be or what to do. I'm going to help you become more you, so then we can build your life and your business in alignment with you being you. That way, whatever you are doing out there will feel absolutely natural to you.
Yeah, absolutely. I, was that person that I grew up. I was taught all these different things. I was following all the, that path, but it was not in alignment with who I am. I had my own journey, and thankfully I'm much more in alignment now. And that impacted my business tremendously. I went from like, scarcity to like, oh my God, how do I, make ends meet and things, to like, I'm living in beautiful, abundance right now. But it was a journey that, like you said, like you have to just get uncomfortable for a little bit, but it's going to be worth it. Right. So I'm like, oh, Eugenia, everything you're saying, I'm like, yes, I've been there. I've done that. Oh my God. Yes. I love it. I love it. Yeah, I know you're not a typical business coach, and, your belief is that business strategy alone is not enough to create a successful business. So can you tell us a little bit more about that?
Yeah, a lot of times when people say like, all right, I've been doing healing sessions for a while, or I've been seeing clients, helping them with like whatever it is that your mentoring skill is, your spiritual coaching or something. And I want to grow my business. I want to actually generate higher income and not just like make the ends meet, but be able to serve at the higher level and go deeper with my clients and influence the world and so on. And let's say you feel that in your heart, you know that this is your path. And this is where most people make a mistake of going to get someone else to tell them how to make that next step. They go outside of themselves and they think, oh, I need business school. I need to take a course that tells me how to do it. I need some cookie cutter strategy that everybody uses, and that way it's going to work for me or something like that. But what I have found is, well, maybe that to some extent could have worked like 20 years ago, but today, there's so many people who come out of these educational institutions with like, okay, this is how you do business. This is how you be a coach. This is how you do this. This is how you make a course or something. And they can't sell any of it because there's also 200 other people doing that same thing. So what I found is that bringing your individuality into your business is pretty much the only way to have ease in bringing abundance to you. So it means that you still need a business strategy. So as a grounded in 3D reality person, I'm not going to tell you just sit there, meditate, and somehow magic happens without you doing anything. Like, no, you got to work in a business. So there's a strategy needed, but that strategy needs to be linked to your uniqueness, to your soul expertise, to your quantum possibilities, so that you use also nonlinear side of creation. When we are utilizing that multidimensional piece, like support, for example, a lot of times when people think for business, support would be like hiring a, virtual assistant or something like that, like somebody to do your, structural pieces on the computer or your social media. When the way I look at support is like, well, what about your non-physical team? What about like hiring your guides and your angels and your animal friends and so on? That's also part of a business strategy. So then a business strategy is not this limited thing. So that's why business strategy alone, as in some sort of a, proven cookie cutter thing, like you just do that and create a webinar or create a course and then it works. It doesn't. It's not enough. But when you bring in your individuality, you actually kind of mutate or transform the business strategy into a perfect for you outfit. So instead of walking in something that feels too tight and kind of trapping, like a lot of times that's why people don't make money, because they're afraid of doing business in a business way, because a lot of business strategies feel very limited and kind of like walking in shoes that are size too small. And instead you bring in so much of who you are that you make your business fit you, not the other way around. And that way you get to have the time freedom, you get to have financial freedom, you get to have expression freedom, like you authentically showing up, innovation, and lots of space for yourself or whatever it is that you need, because you're not alone. Even if you're a solopreneur, you're still not alone, because you have non-physical support team, because you have quantum field of possibilities and so on. All of that anchored in some very simple business strategy.
Yeah, wow. No, you said so many amazing things in there. I think the one thing that stood out to me is that, because, the person you're talking about, that was me, a few years back. And I'm just like, yes, oh my God, I can hear everything. I'm like, this is old Mary, basically. I love that you brought up, you have your virtual assistant, you have your social media team or whoever it is that you hire, maybe your accountant or whatever, right? But then you have your spirit guides, your animal guides. And I'm like, yes, literally, I had a meeting with my spirit guides this morning, like, a team meeting. Not literally, that's not what I call it. But, I was like that. Those meetings have helped me progress so much more. Mm-hmm. And like a meeting with, I love my assistants and the people that are on my team, but like, they do different things. But like my spirit guides are the ones that are like, lady, stop worrying. Like, this is a whole bunch of baloney. Like, just go do this, and I go do it. And then it works.
Mm-hmm.
So I love that you brought that up. I don't think many people talk about it. And I love that you talked about it. Running a business has such a masculine energy with everything that we do. And I know you are about, balancing the masculine and the feminine, or like, bringing them together. So what would you say to someone that's like, well, how can I tap more into it or bring more feminine energy into what I do?
Well, first, let's figure out, like, to define the terms here. What is masculine? What is feminine? So the way I look at it, that masculine is electric energy. So that means it's directional. So this is a step-by-step process. So all your procedures, all your operations in a business, the delivery of your services, the structures of your marketing, let's say, or how you write your sales page in your, website or whatever, those are what we would call electric or masculine. The feminine side, that's not just feeling. Feminine side is, from my perspective, is non-linear. So in other words, it's quantum creation, non-linear creation when you tune in to something that you desire, when you frequency match the thing that you want, and then you collapse the time potential into the thing that you desire. It's a very different kind of marketing. So linear marketing is the masculine way. The feminine way is the other side of it. It's where you use your intuition, is where you trust what you're getting. Like, oh, right now is the right time. Right now it's not the right time. I have to wait a little bit. Or creating space for yourself, or tuning into what you desire and then linking to that in your frequency, and then holding the frequency, which is where the personal mastery comes in. So we don't wobble as soon as we don't get the thing immediately, but we maintain that. And the more we learn to be steady sort of in that feminine trust way, when you flow with reality instead of demanding reality to be a certain way, the more we add that into the regular structures of the business. And I find that when somebody is doing the business just the masculine way, the linear way, especially for spiritual conscious people, that is too limiting, and usually we rebel and then we don't do it and it doesn't work, so you don't get paid. Or we tend to want to outsource everything because we don't want to do any of it. But when you outsource that part, you're also missing the grounding. So obviously, like, having a team is a whole other conversation, but just from the standpoint of the feminine and masculine, structures are necessary in the business. There's no business that can just work on meditation and intention and intuition. You do need to have business structures, but you also need to have the other side. And what I find a lot is that the most spiritual, intuitive, aligned people seem to forget all that as soon as they try to do the business. It's almost like, yeah, I get to do this in all the areas of my life and like intuitively tune in which tea I need or something, but I can't like decide that for the webinar or for, let's say, the way I write my sales page. Like, no, that has to be according to somebody else's template who knows what they're doing, and I don't. When in reality, yes, it's true that there's some patterns that exist that tend to connect to human psychology and archetypes, and that's why they work. So yes, they should be utilized in business. That's the masculine. But the intuitive, the flowing, the inner navigation, essentially, that's feminine. That's the part that link to nonlinear quantum creation.
Wow, this is so good. You talked a lot about trust. And, for someone that's like, Eugenia, I hear you, but I just don't trust myself, or I don't feel confident in myself, or, what would you say on like how we can create more trust?
Well, trust is follow through, right? Trust is dependability. So when you trust somebody, it means you depend that they will do what they said. So that's why the ideas of like, oh, I'm supposed to trust the universe don't really work for a lot of people, because then they feel like, that means universe will like give them what they want. And we all know universe gives us what we need, not always what we want. It's going to give you what you need for your lesson. So that a lot of times collapses the trust in the first place in people. And then when it has to do with self-trust, well, that's another layer of it, because I would say, okay, are you good with your word? Like if you said, I'm going to do this, are you actually going to do this? If you said that this is how, like I really want this, and then you wrote that intention and you journaled about it, and then did you forget about it next week, or did you actually stick to it? So trust is something you build. It's not something like, oh, how do I just like activate trust? Trust is something you kind of have to earn within yourself so that parts of you trust the other parts of you. So if you have parts of you that constantly sabotage you, of course you don't trust yourself. So you have to look as to, okay, what do I mean by trust? Because if you think that trust means everything will work out the way I want to, well, that's kind of childish and it's not going to work that way. But if trust means that I can depend on myself following through with my intention, I can depend on myself trusting my navigation inside, like listening to that voice and not ignoring it. I can depend to give myself room to process something and not jump in or jump away from something in reaction, but be in response. All those things build trust. So if you're somebody that's having a difficulty with self-trust, I would say literally look at your behavior, maybe make a list as to like, okay, these are the things that I said I wanted, and these are the things I actually followed through on. Like this is where, like I said, I will never let myself be stepped on again. And then I acquiesced and accommodated somebody and I felt like I got stepped on. Okay, well, that right there, that's why you don't trust yourself. Or I said I'm going to do this and then I didn't feel like it and I didn't do it. Okay, that's why you don't trust yourself. Or maybe you said that next time I have this big emotional reaction, I'm going to keep my mouth shut and let myself process that and journal about it and go for a walk. And then I'm going to come back and respond calmly. And then you didn't do it and blew up anyway. So all those little things are kind of show you, oh, like trust is something I actually can be in control of. It's not some magical animal in a magical forest like you have to find. Trust is something you build. It's like a muscle. If you want to get in shape, you have to exercise. So if you want to trust yourself, you got to show yourself that you're trustworthy. So make a list as to how you want to behave and then track it for a couple of weeks. Like, are you actually following it? I can guarantee you that if you did this for just 2 weeks and you actually followed, like you remembered, oh yeah, I got to be true to this. Oh yeah, I said that. So no, I'm not blowing up right now. No, I'm not going to do this. Yep. I'm not going to respond to this email right now. I'm going to go for a walk and then do it because I told myself I'm not doing it right away. Like whatever it is that's on your list of trust. In 2 weeks, you're going to feel so much more like you can trust yourself because you've shown to yourself that you are trustworthy.
Wow. I love the way you broke that down. It's so good. If you have to go back and re-listen to the whole episode, there's so much gold in here. I would definitely say so. Do it. I do have one last question I usually ask most of my guests is, for anyone right now feeling stuck or scared to take the next step or leap in their business, what would you say to them?
I would say start from looking what is your natural innate gift. Because if you know that there is something you meant to serve through, you will have the courage to make the step. So it always has to do with the bigger vision from the way that I look at reality. Like all my clients, I teach them like, okay, what is the bigger mission here? What is the bigger vision? Why are you doing this? Because if you don't know that, then as soon as something difficult happens, you're going to stop. And if you really want to succeed, people who succeed, they have really big visions. So what is your big vision? Like maybe you're amazing at holding space for someone to feel safe. Well, what's the big vision behind that? Like maybe you care deeply about abuse that happened on this planet and you're really, really into the idea of helping people find their own safety and how that's going to change the world because the more people are saved, the more they raise children in a different like parameters, let's say, and then these children create a next generation of a much more harmonious respectful of each other society when everybody's feeling safe. Now that would be making a very big vision out of an initial some impulse that you find within yourself that you have a gift for. So always look for the bigger thing. When you find that bigger vision, it fuels you. Then you have the courage to take the steps and take a step by hiring a coach. That's actually like, I know a lot of times people think like, well, but there's so much free stuff online and this and that. Yes. And all of that free stuff results, unfortunately, in kind of nothing. The same thing with little piecemeal courses. The reason for that is because none of those things know you. They only know a specific strategy and then they tell you how to do the strategy. If on another hand, you're serious about like, okay, this is my mission in life. This is my gift. This is what I'm meant to do. I really, really, really want to change this world, and I know I'm meant to do it. I have something. I just don't know how. Like, I don't know the structure for it. Great. Hire somebody who's going to help you understand yourself and apply that onto business. Kind of like build a business around you, which is like what I do with my clients, and there are, I'm sure, other people who do that, versus somebody who's going to tell you business strategy that you have to fit yourself into. You want to have a business that fitting you, like a perfectly tailored outfit, which means it has to be built on your uniqueness. So to have the courage to make the step of actually having a mentor who's going to help you do that and follow through, you first have to start by expanding your vision so that you have fuel for that mission.
I love that. I love that so much. Yes, look for the bigger thing. And I 100% am an advocate for coaches. I've done before, being in business where I am now, I was in a different business. I did it all by myself. Well, I was with a partner at the time. And my business partner and I, we were on the struggle bus and we were trying to figure it all out on our own and, doing the hustle and all of that. But no, since I started this business, I've always had someone to guide me or help me. And it's been 1,000 times better. And I've even been the type of person that like, oh, I'm just going to try to figure this out on my own. There's a free guide here. But let me tell you, the second I invested, it created such better results. So I completely, I'm like, yep, what Eugenia said. I love that. Oh my God. You shared so many good things with us, so many insights and, your magic. I loved it today. Is there anything you would want that, our listeners to know before we wrap up?
If you want to understand how to actually create a soul aligned business, the way I was talking about it, when you're using your soul design and you're able to generate significant income through your soul work, I have a webinar for you guys that if you watch that, it will give you a clear understanding. So it's a new model of coaching that does not require endless course launches, large email lists. This is about how you can attract high-end clients, and you essentially speak from your soul expertise. So even if you maybe don't consider yourself a high-end coach yet, it will show you what are the needed steps in order to fully step into that level of business, and why rigid cookie cutter masculine strategies that maybe you've tried before and they didn't work, and maybe you kind of feel like, well, I don't know if I'm like cut out for business. It will show you how you can get paid well for doing your soul work, like literally 10,000 a month and more, doing the thing you love that you came here to do, that is your mission, and attracting these high ticket clients who are paying you over 5,000 per offer. So the webinar is soulstrategywebinar.com. So if you type in soulstrategywebinar.com, it will get you right to that page where you can view this. And of course, there's tons of information about wealth energetics and about how to create a conscious business and the profit potential I was talking about on my website, which is transcensiongate.com.
Perfect. And all of that is linked in the show notes. So go ahead and check that out and go check out the webinar. Go check out Eugenia's magic. I love it all. Oh, thank you so much again for being on here and sharing all of that you did with us today.
Oh, thank you so much, Mary, for having me. And I always want people to understand that if you feel in your being that you're meant to do something, you actually are. So the rest is just make the steps towards it.
I love that. I love that. Yes. Well, amazing. There we have it. That's all today, friend. I hope this inspires you. I hope this uplifts you in all the ways. Thank you again, Eugenia, for joining us today. And thank you so much for tuning in. As always, I'm sending all the love, light, good vibes, and magic into your home, your world, and your business.